That never fails to amuse me.
No, it was really funny when I was doing this, and now it's even more funny that we got the tool.
We're very official.
Yeah, we are official. I like writing all those funny things on the tool.
I know you do. I know you do. Well, if nothing else, we always have a good time when we're doing this.
We do. We have a good time, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're making art.
That's right.
Is make a mess and have fun.
Especially with a great friend. That's
right?
always fun too.
That's definitely the objective. So, speaking of fun and friends.
And friends.
We are doing creating texture, 3 stencils, 2 ways. So we're working with 3 of my relatively new stencil designs, patterns for layering. This one is called Mesh Mask. Ooh. This one is called Patchwork. Oh, 2 for 2. And this one is called Here Comes the Rain.
Well, it would be more rain. I was gonna say, if you hold it vertically, it looks a little bit more like rain now.
Here comes the rain.
Yeah.
I remember the names of them. So I'm gonna show you how to make texture plates out of molding paste with those on cardstock, which is super fun. Just spreading the molding paste through the stencil thick, and then you get like this cool texture plate, and you use it to make cool patterns. I used it to make cool patterns on the gel plate by pressing it into wet paint. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And then
we're going to take the normal things that you would do with stencils, and I'm going to, well, so here's a piece. I'm going to do them with stencil butter, but you know, this is a normal thing. But something that I don't ordinarily do, and let's hold it this way. This is Mesh Mask. But usually when you put something through a stencil with a palette knife, it's something with a bit of body. It has some heft to it, as my dad would say. And because of that, you get a layer, you get a thick layer. But you can in fact do something like what Elizabeth was just showing you. That is our Alchemy Sparks paint. Now, will you get a perfect impression? No, but I don't need a perfect impression every time. I have the feeling of what Mesh Mask is, which is what that is. And so you can play around and you can get shiny if you work with things like that, or stencil butter, which has that glimmer too. You can take modeling paste or, well, that just landed on the floor. Modeling paste or texture paste, which is kind of a white or an off-white color, and you can tint it with anything you want. So texture is a good thing. It adds physical texture, and I'm pointing to my face and saying physical. It adds visual and physical texture, so you get to see and feel, which art is tactile. Can you tell that this is the last video we did in 4 days? Because boy, I'm punching.
You're tongue-tied.
I am.
So what I'm trying to figure out here, and you're gonna have to help me with the math because I'm easily confused. I got the 3 stencils. Oh yeah, 3 stencils, 2 ways. So your way and my way,
or the highway.
How was you beat me to it?
I know, right? Because yeah, we're that crazy.
We are. Well, what do you say? Let's go show them how to do it.
All right, let's go.
All right. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to create your own texture plates by spreading molding paste through your favorite stencils. So I have golden molding paste, I have a palette knife, I have a Joggles 5x7 index card that I'm gonna use as my base, and then today I am playing with 3 of my new patterns for layering stencils. This one is called Mesh Mask. This one is called Here Comes the Rain. And this one is called Patchwork. So these are good patterns for this effect because they're small openings and they cover a full area with a kind of a similar pattern. So the key to doing this is just spreading the molding paste with a palette knife in a relatively thick layer, and smooth at the top, because you want some height to it, because that's what is going to press and remove the paint from the plate. So I just spread it out. I always say I do this like buttering toast. So I put the molding paste on the back side of the palette knife, and then I hang on to it outside the edge of the card and just spread it through the stencil. And I like to spread it as thick as I can get it so that we have, like I said, a good relief, a raised up pattern for the gel plate. So It helps to let these dry overnight or put them outside in the sun to dry. The thicker you lay the molding paste, the longer it's going to take to dry, and it also depends on your climate. So if you're in a humid climate, I would say leave it overnight. And then you want to try to get the surface smooth with the palette knife so that when you're pressing into the gel plate, you have a nice smooth surface on your texture plate. Whoops, pulled some of it off there. So it's kind of like frosting a cake too at this point. We're going to get it nice and smooth. And then, you know, lift the stencil, and there you have the pattern in the molding paste, and you can see the raised texture that's created. And this is just regular molding paste. There's different kinds of molding paste. You can get light molding paste, coarse molding paste. You can I think any of them will work. You can experiment with different molding paste or use whatever you have on hand. But there you can see that nice raised texture, and that's just going to make a great texture plate for gel printing. So now I've got 3 different texture plates with the 3 different stencil designs, and they're completely dry, and I'm going to use them to press into paint on the plate and remove it in a subtle pattern, and then I'm going to transfer that pattern to a prepared solid sheet. So I'm working with a real deep dark purple prepared solid sheet, and then I'm going to use the Sparks Fairy Wings metallic paint to create my texture pattern. So this paint is pretty thin in viscosity, so you have to put out a little bit, well, that might be too much, a little bit more than you think, especially to get a good impression with the texture plates. And if you're using different paint, you just have to practice a little bit to see how much paint to spread out and how firm to press the texture plates into the paint. It's going to take a little practice, but that's the fun part, the process. So I'm going to spread this out nice and even, and I think I have a nice thick layer, and then I'm going to take my texture plate and press the pattern into the paint, and then it will remove in a subtle way that will transfer onto the purple sheet. So you can see how that molding paste is really picking up that pattern. I love it. And I did these on 5x7 so that I could put all 3 patterns in one print. I think that's going to be a little bit unique and different than the one full pattern over the whole sheet. So now that you have the paint removed, you're going to take that prepared solid and print. And look at that. Fantastic. Wow, I really like that. It's a very unique and different effect than just using the stencil straightforward. It's a lot more subtle because it removes paint in some areas better and in some areas less. So you get variation and you get a bit of a more organic pattern, and it's just a whole different look and another way that you can use texture and stencils. And here's an example of some other prints that I made while I was practicing and experimenting with color combinations. So this one is teal underneath with sort of a medium brown on top. Here we've got pink underneath with magenta on top. And here I've got teal underneath with a really nice copper on top. So all kinds of different colors, patterns, textures, and effects with this process.
Stencils and Crafter's Workshop stencil butter are a very perfect combination. I mean, stencils and stencil butter, it just makes obvious sense. So we've seen this before. I've played here, I put some color down, I used Patchwork and Here Comes the Rain, and I've got mesh mask that I'm gonna show you in 1 second. So this is very straightforward. I'm not even gonna demo it because you've seen it, but what I did wanna mention is that you can always mix colors. You can mix them to create a third color, or you can let them kind of play around on the stencil and brush them through, and you get this odd little blending that goes on, which I think is fun. It's just another way to enhance what you've already got. What's even more interesting, and I don't ordinarily do this, and sometimes I wonder why the heck not, but I have a couple of samples where I've used, let me turn them this way. So this is Finnabair's Art Alchemy Sparks paint. This is Fairy Wings. And this is the color, same Sparks paint. This is the color, well, not without my glasses. This is the color that is named Night Shadow. So when you use paint, which this is a very thin-bodied paint to begin with. So when you use paint, you have to expect that you're not going to get a perfect representation of the stencil. You can see where there's definite creepage going on under here. But if you think about using paint, in addition to things like stencil butter and molding paste, you open up a whole nother group of possible things that you can work with. So I'm going to grab, Here Comes the Rain, because it's the first thing I can put my mitts on. And I'm going to work with, this is one of our watercolor number 10 panel cards. That's what all of these are. So watercolor, black, smooth and sturdy, wet cement, and then craft. And I have to say, between Elizabeth and I, we've agreed that we really do love the craft. So I'm not going to tape this down. I'm not going to use sprays. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just simply going to apply this. I'm going to turn it this way a little bit. Let's just peel this back. Regular old palette knife. I'm not using anything special because I'm going in knowing full well that this isn't going to be perfect, and I've decided I'm okay with that. So I'm going to spread this and I'm going to let it go. Now you can see here, I've completely filled the opening of the stencil, but as I get further down here, I haven't come near to filling that, and I'm okay because when you look, that's how you get this kind of look where you have all these little funny lines. This is just where, as I'm scraping, the paint has caught on the edge of the stencil and it produces that look. And I think that's pretty cool. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't necessarily cover an entire stencil, but for the purposes of demonstration here, I'm just going to kind of go along and do most of it. And when I take this off, you can see, again, there's definitely creepage going on, but you get this really cool effect. I don't know how else you would get that. I don't know if there's a way to actually do it and have it happen, but I have learned that this happens oftentimes when I'm just lightly scraping things through a stencil without any real attempt to completely fill it in. So whether you use something like Art Alchemy paint or you use something like stencil butter, you go back, and so the molding paste that Elizabeth used in her segment, you can use that. You can use Ranger's texture paste. All of them can be tinted, so you can change that kind of white or off-white molding paste, modeling paste, texture paste, to pretty much any color that you want. Lots of possibilities. We showed you 3 stencils with 2 different kinds of techniques. Imagine if you start pulling your stencils out and all the ones that you've got hiding, you realize the multitude of things that you can do with them. In case you're wondering what my plans are for the panel cards, and this happens to be, well, you can call it a 5x7 index card, or you could call it an A7 panel card. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. With that said, Elizabeth and I are together in Sacramento, and we're working on a variety of things over the last few days. And one of the things that we worked on was the folk art florals, or as I like to think of them, the fabulous folk art florals. So I had these extras already printed and cut out and did some embellishing on them, and they work perfectly. So some of the shorter ones work really well on the 5x7 size, and the others work really, really well. You get this whole length that you get filled in. And then you've got the back where you can write a sentiment, or if you wanted to, you could kind of park this on top of the Here's the Rain, and you could put a sentiment over here, whether you wrote it or you printed it out and cut it out or whatever. So there's always options, and there's always fun things that you can do when you take textures and stencils and you combine them with other things.
It's in your head. It's in your head, and now it needs to come out your mouth.
Oh, stuff flies out of my mouth on a regular basis.
Count to 10 before you let it come out your mouth. That's a good tool.
It's probably worth it taking under advisement.
Yes, or at least 3. Count to 3.
Okay. So we showed you a couple of different ways that you can create texture with a variety of things using stencils. And what we hope you do is take these ideas and run with them. Break the technique. See what else you can do with that technique. Put the modeling paste on really super thick. Put it on really, really thin. Tint the modeling paste. There's all kinds of ways that you can take these things and make them your own. And really, isn't that what this is all about? We want to give you some ideas, and we hope that you have a really good time with them and you experiment.
Experiment with it. Run with it.
Run with it.
Just don't run with scissors or an X-Acto knife or linoleum carving tools. Anything else?
I have nothing to
That's
add
it.
to that.
Those are the most dangerous art supplies. Don't run with any of them.
No, definitely not.
But you can most definitely run with this idea.
Please do. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.